Welcome to the Sales Leverage PIP to President's Club podcast. My name is Ryan Johns, founder and CEO of Sales Leverage. We started this podcast with the intent of re-educating the market on the most optimal ways to achieve sales and revenue success. Our guests consist of revenue leaders and individual contributors across sales, marketing, business development, customer success, and even product engineering. You may ask why, but all of these teams play a critical role in the overall success of the modern revenue org. We address the most pressing challenges and offer actionable solutions that simplify the complex sales process. For our first episode, I had to bring this guy on, a super special guest to me. Brian Hamilton is currently a strategic account manager for Blytheco. Blytheco is a top reseller and implementation partner in the ERP and CRM sector. Brian has over 23 years of business-to-business sales experience. The majority of his tenure has been with two global giants in their space, FedEx and Sage Software. Brian has done it all from inside sales to field sales and even partner sales. He's achieved multiple awards and accolades over his sales career. Today, we're going to discuss his journey over the past 20 plus years and learn some of the tactics that he has had to employ during his evolution as a software sales professional. Brian has a unique story that proves old dogs can definitely learn new tricks if they possess the willingness. His story is actually a big part of the motivation for naming this podcast. So listen up, take notes, and learn from someone who's been in the trenches for more than 2 decades. You will not be disappointed. So B. Ham, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Glad to be here. I really appreciate the invite.
Absolutely, man. Who better to have on the show, man? I'm telling you, like the naming of this show. I mean, it came from our experience together, right?
Right.
It's a rare story, but it's one that I love, and I wanted you to come on here and share that. So, man, without further ado, man, let's like jump into the history. I think this is the most interesting part of this whole, like our friendship over the last 8 years or so now.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, man. A lot has changed over that time. So, man, let's kind of set the stage for the discussion and get into the history. Give it to me from your perspective, and then I'll give
Yeah.
the audience my viewpoint as well. But this is like I'm just gonna bite my lip. I'm like, oh my god, what is he gonna
Right.
say? So,
So I can remember it like it was yesterday.
mm,
And I remember working in Midtown. So I wasn't coming up to the Lawrenceville office all that much. And you were already there.
yep,
So I didn't know you just yet. But then when I got there, when they brought me back up to Lawrenceville permanently, and then we got to interact because we were peers at that time.
yep,
It was pretty cool.
yep,
Used to bounce ideas off of me and vice versa.
yep.
We said we weren't going to talk about it. And you're a Baltimore fan. I'm from Pittsburgh, and can't talk about what happened yesterday, though. So we're not going to do that.
How the heck did we become friends? That alone is
Right,
like that should have driven a wedge between us. But nah,
right.
man,
But
all
the
good.
inner office Monday mornings, after Sunday,
Yeah,
evenings were always special.
yeah,
But then once things progressed and they moved you into the management role, and you were no longer a peer, you were a manager. And I begun to see you know how you wanted your sales executives to contract and engage with the client was
yeah,
completely totally different than what I have ever done, what I was
yeah.
used to.
Well,
And
look, wait a minute, back up, because this is funny to me. So we met, what was it, 2016? We're in the ERP space, CRM,
yep,
right, selling
yep,
all this additional tech, right? I had no SaaS experience when we met, like zero. I've
no,
sold
you
a lot of
didn't.
things, but it was like on-premise stuff and
Yeah,
solutions and services, but it was all like on-prem, right?
right.
You had been with the company for what? How long had you been there before I arrived?
At that point, if it was 2016, I had been there for 7 years, 7,
7 years?
almost 8. Yeah,
Yeah, so you were like an OG in this space, right? I
pretty
remember you
much.
were very well known, stellar reputation, very well respected. And it was crazy, man. Like our team was pretty new. Like some of the stuff they were trying to go after and accomplish
Everybody
with a
was new.
direct sales team. Yeah, because most people were like channel sales, partner sales, and this was like the first run at direct B2B.
Tiffany created that, and I was the first. I was the guinea pig. They didn't even
Yeah,
have training
yeah,
for what they wanted me to do. She gave me a
yeah,
laptop and said, "Spend some time in Sage University for the next 3 weeks, and then
yeah,
you should be ready." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah.
really? Okay."
Hey man, they had confidence in your ability. You know what I
I
mean? Like I
guess.
said, the reputation precedes you. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Brian can handle this shit. Like, yeah, yeah. And so
Right.
what was it like 7 or 8? Like 7 or 8 of us, I believe. And what
Yep.
were you? What was your focus in that new role? Like, what were the solutions and stuff like that?
My sole focus was 100 and 300 migration sales. And so what
Hmm.
that entailed was moving people from Sage 50 out of that solution into either 100 or 300. That's
Yep.
basically what I was
What
charged.
were some? What would you say the biggest challenge? Because that's a big step. You know, going from
Oh my
50 to
God.
100, 300. It's a totally different persona that you're talking to. And for
Yeah.
those that don't understand the ERP space, give them kind of an overview because, like, you're the expert at the with ERP, CRM, and stuff like that. Like, tell people what that entails because it's
Yeah.
very, very complex.
Huge, huge. The biggest hurdle was the cost differential between the two.
Hmm.
You're taking a client that has one solution that one size fits all. So it
Yep.
has all the modules in it. You can tweak it just a little bit by unchecking some boxes here and there, but it
Hmm.
primarily, operates the same for every single person that has it. And it's on premise. You can host it, but then you have just, based on license usage, a renewal amount that comes up annually, be 4, 5, 7, 8,000. You
Hmm.
know, most expensive renewal, probably 14, 15 grand.
Yeah.
But again, now you're taking them into something else that needs to be implemented, which they've never heard.
Hmm.
Implementation. What do you mean? I just can't install it and it's up and
Not plug
running
and
in an
play,
hour or
right?
two. Yeah,
Not
yeah, it's not plug and
yeah.
play.
Right.
So you had to coach them on that. Let them know that this implementation project, if you will, is going to be, depending on what you're doing. Financials only is shorter, obviously, but if you're a manufacturer, you're looking at a 4, 5, 6 month project.
Yeah.
So you're going to purchase this software and you're going to pay for services along the way, and you're not going to be up and running for another 6, 10, 6, 8, 10 months.
And wasn't it like 4x like the services alone, like the implementation, the professional services, wasn't it like 4 or 5x the actual platform cost itself?
Yeah, you're being
That's a
kind. It was
being kind of, well, yeah, I don't want to get too, but again, it's a big jump, right?
yeah,
It's more to sell. It's far from a transactional sales play. It's far
not
from a
even
commodity sales play,
yeah,
right?
not even
This is
close.
this is true like enterprise style selling.
Yeah, you're having several calls with, depending on who else you're bringing to the call. You have engineers on the call. You have third party solutions people on the call. If you're bringing that into the space as well, that's an added cost too,
Yep.
all the way around. But yeah, 3 to 4 to 5x, sometimes even 6x, depending on the solution and what needs to be tweaked.
Yeah. So already like a massive, I guess, execution curve. I don't want to say learning curve because I think you knew the solutions very well. I don't think it took you long to learn it, but just an execution curve was the big piece, right? It's like
Oh
your
yeah,
delivery is very different. The team is much larger.
right.
You were on the ERP side. When I started, if you remember, they actually were hiring for 2 people to run the enterprise intelligence, the business intelligence side of things.
Yep.
And, I ended up kind of doing it on my own. And, things went pretty well. Things went pretty
Hmm.
well. And within that first year, I'm going from a guy that had no SaaS experience to a manager, to a sales manager of this
Right.
brand new team of my once peers who had way more experience than me in that specific space.
Yeah.
That to me was a challenge. It's like, how do I make that transition? You know what I mean? And
And I
I
never
had some
thought
good.
about it like that. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, man. I had some good coaching. So our sales leader, our director, the VP of sales, I would work with them on like, hey, how do I make this transition as easy as possible and not come across like an asshole, basically. So, which you guys
Right.
probably thought I was from time to time, and I own it. It's all good, but it was a tall task going from
Yeah.
one specific domain and then having to, lead individuals that had various levels of expertise and different solutions, right?
Oh
That
yeah,
was
exactly.
hard, man. Y'all, I don't think y'all gave me any grace on that one,
Well,
boy.
now that you put it like that, and now I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, you had it rough too.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah. So what were your thoughts? Like, and be honest, man. Like, this is me and you. We've
Yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
friends for a number of years now. What were your thoughts? Like this like, like,
So,
you know what I mean? Like, what were you thinking?
like the first couple one-on-ones that we had, and you were kind of easygoing the first couple of them, but then, you started drilling in and asking questions like, okay, what's going on with this deal? What's going on with where you at with it?
Yeah,
And you start asking questions around what's the impact? What's the impact? What's the impact? And I would tell you stuff like, well, yeah, they can't do this. Their inventory's off. This is off, and they can't do this. That's part of the problem. That's not the impact, right?
right, right.
I never could give you that answer you were looking for. And that's
Hmm.
kind of where we would butt heads, like on every single one of those. And it took probably 2 or 3 months for me for the aha moment to happen or for the light bulb to go off. And once that happened, I began to think back on all the deals that just sat, all the deals where the customer just ghosted me and never even
Yeah,
responded.
yeah.
And I started to think about, wow, if I'd have started with this information or led with this information and
Hmm.
conducted the entire process around what I know now,
Yeah.
the outcomes would have been very different.
Yeah, yeah. Those are things, man. Like customer impact metrics are critical to understand because what I always tell people, man, like customers are not buying your product. They don't give a damn about your product. They don't
They
care
don't care.
about your service. What is it allowing them or enabling them to do?
Right,
What impact? Net positive impact am I going to achieve as a customer using your software or service? And
right.
then can you quantify that impact? Because again, we always say
Exactly.
numbers are the universal language of business. And so I used to
Yeah.
really push you guys to look for that quantifiable impact. Well, first find quantifiable pain and then you can map to the quantifiable impact. But if you don't do that,
Yeah.
it's
And
a
that's,
crapshoot.
and then like the question you asked earlier, taking these people from, that comfort level of Sage 50 that does
Hmm.
everything, to this ERP solution, which is drastically more expensive, can do a whole lot more, can solve for a whole lot more. If I'm not asking the right questions and quantifying anything, really all I'm doing is putting a quote together at the end of the day,
Yeah.
sending it through email and asking you to either sign it or not. Like really,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what's gonna give you the motivation to sign it if I haven't given you that?
Yeah, we
You
used to
know?
leave way too much up to the
Oh,
customer. Like we left it up to the customer to kind of diagnose their pain and their problem, and we were
oh,
just kind of the facilitator or the accommodator. You know what I mean? Like we were
that's
order takers in some regard. You know what I'm
that's right.
saying?
That's right.
And doing it that way, I think worked for the other solutions you were selling, but in this space, it was a big difference.
Yeah.
And you, yeah, we definitely butted heads quite a bit. Um, and you ended up, and it was I didn't want to do it, and this is the reason for the show.
Hmm.
You were one of those people that got put on letter, right? A performance
Yeah.
improvement plan,
I
right?
forgot about that. You did put me on one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
But
I
you know
got
what?
I
I,
kind of
I
had
deserve
to,
to,
but
based on where
yeah,
the numbers were, dictated that I should have been on.
it was purely objective, man. It was
Of
nothing
course.
personal. It was a couple of individuals that actually got put on PIP. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but what I
Yeah.
found interesting was it was two of you all that were on letter, but you made a different decision, right?
I did.
You could have chosen to be the rebel and dig in your heels, and this is the way we've always done it. And because the other person, that's what they did, right? They
Right.
they ended up
Right.
digging it in their heels, and they didn't make that pivot like you did. They didn't make that transition the way
Right.
you did, and that's why I said in the beginning, old dogs can learn new tricks if they're willing, right? You,
Right.
you've got the intellectual, the cognitive ability. It's just will you pivot your process?
Exactly.
And I think that's, man, what really separated you from everyone else. And I think that just changed the trajectory of your career, man. Honestly,
Oh, big time. Once that foundation was laid and now I had it, every engagement after that was going to go that way, with a
yeah,
client.
yes. And you were consistent as hell, man. Like you were very disciplined. I find that a lot of sales executives that I have either led, coached, or mentored. It's not that they lack talent. All you guys have talent, right? You know how to
Right.
sell, but
Right.
it's the discipline to the process, right?
Exactly.
That's what you demonstrated really better than anybody on the team. And that next year, if I recall, man, you went
Yeah.
to President's Club or whatever we called it back then. I don't know what it's
Called it,
called, but
I can't even remember what it's called. Platinum Elite. That's what they called it. Yeah.
Platinum Elite, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to have that type of shift just from executing your process different and thinking about business different,
Yeah.
it's a game changer, man. You know,
It,
we started to look at business through a different lens at that point.
it is. It is. And when you get to the end of that engagement, when you're ready to present the solution, right?
Hmm.
And there's an executive summary attached to it, which I never did. You introduced me to all that.
Yeah, yeah,
But it spells everything out. It spells out the impact. And the
yeah.
impact is it's the telling truth, because the data that's in there, it's their data. They gave it to you. They gave it to me.
Yes, yes,
So when they're sitting there in that boardroom and they're considering this decision on whether or not to sign off or not,
yeah,
and there's a document that has values in there,
yeah.
that pretty much say, if you don't do anything, these bad things are going to continue to happen, right?
Correct, correct.
And so when I treated every deal like that, with that documentation to validate everything that we've gone through to that point,
Yeah,
it makes the decision for the client much easier.
yeah,
And
yeah.
your close time ratio goes, like, my God, it's deals don't stall for 2, 3, 4 months. Clients won't
Hmm.
ghost you.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
that's
yeah.
that's the other part.
Sales velocity is something that a lot of companies aren't measuring right now. It's how quick do you move through stages? How quickly do you
Yeah.
move from one milestone to the next? And yeah, this model, I mean, it's proven like it always works. Doesn't matter the industry. It has great, great results. And the thing about that whole executive summary and building a business case with customer data, right? The
Yeah.
customer specific data points versus
Yeah.
anecdotal data, it
Right.
resonates different because you look at where we are now. Think about back in the day, man. You remember when we were like field sales and we can get face to face with our customers and we can wine
Oh
and
man.
dine and we can do all that type of stuff. Like
Yeah.
budgets just don't allow for that anymore. So now it's like, no, you really have to sell. It can't just be charisma and the wine and dine and
Exactly.
the relationship. Yeah, there's
Exactly.
always a relationship element, but more than anything, it's like, can you prove your value? And can you prove value at the strategic level as well as the tactical level? Because a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of times we get so caught up. Remember how we used to do demos? Like it was all about the demo, the demo, the
Oh my God.
demo. And it's like the demo doesn't matter if you don't understand the quantifiable impact of what you're solving for. The demo is
Right.
just a validation tool, but we always, right, when we first
Oh
started, it's
man.
like, oh, if we get the demo, we're gonna, you
A
know,
lot of us used to just become like the client's lackey. Like they would dictate, "We need to see a demo on this and that." And before you even did discovery, or sometimes you'd give a demo without discovery, right?
oh, huge mistake. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
right. And like, what are you doing? Like, you don't even know anything yet. What are you going to
yeah,
demo around? Right.
yeah,
But I remember we used to have conversations like, if somebody's calling you up to ask you about a demo or giving a demo and they won't give you a time, a day, or enough time to even go over what their problems are.
yeah,
Tell them no. Send them a video of something on YouTube. I mean, don't waste
yeah,
your time with that. And you were right.
yeah.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, yeah, we waste a lot of time and resource, even bringing engineers because the solution's so complex. It's like, yeah, we couldn't do the full demo ourselves. We can do certain parts of it, but
Right.
when it really got in the weeds, we brought in engineers for that, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I just think we were putting the cart. Well, I know we were putting the cart ahead of the horse a lot of times. We just didn't
Hmm.
have a leg to stand on. We had no leverage, right, in that whole
Right.
in that whole exchange, right. It was all on the customer, and we were just at their beck and call or whatever. And it's just never a good way to sell, not in this environment, especially. And it's getting harder and harder. Now customers are so much more educated. They
Oh
know
yeah.
the solutions. They've seen, you know what I mean? Like they've seen the
Hmm.
platform itself, but the value alignment is where we add a tremendous amount
Exactly. And you're right. They've
yeah,
seen a lot of solutions out there. There's competitors out there that have trials, for free.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
go, spend $0, get yourself a trial, stumble through it, and at
yep,
least have an idea some working knowledge of what that's going to look like before you even
yeah,
talk to anybody. Right.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's kind of zoom ahead to like I don't want to say current day, but beyond those, because things have changed since that time, right? What
Yeah.
would you say? I'm going to give you a two-part question. So, one, what would you say has been the greatest challenge you faced in your sales career? And then two, what's been your greatest accomplishment?
If I think back prior to you all the way back, I'd say the biggest challenge I had was really not knowing the proper way to engage a client.
Mm,
Just just a phone call or a Zoom meeting or showing up in person and letting
hmm.
the client tell me they think they need, and me just agreeing to that, putting pricing together just based off of that,
Yeah.
with no other further diagnostic questioning from me. And that's what would stall my deals. That's what would make the customer ghost me or whatnot. So that was the biggest challenge, and you never really knew why those things were happening,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You had an idea, or at least you thought, well, the customer reached out to me and he asked for this, and that's what I gave him. Why isn't he
Yeah.
buying it?
Right.
He didn't show enough
Right.
value. That's why I didn't
Yeah,
buy it.
exactly. Because again, he doesn't care about the product. It's not the
No,
product. It's not the
no,
service.
you didn't. Just there's an impact there. You never even uncovered it, right? So that's the biggest challenge. And then I would say the greatest accomplishment was learning those new tricks. This old dog learned some new tricks.
Yeah.
And then once you have that mindset, where you're problem centric selling and you're selling around the problem. So in other
Yeah.
words, here's the customer in their current state, and
Hmm.
then they're trying to get to this future state, and everything in the middle, all the questions that you can ask, revolve around all those problems in the middle. And the larger the problems, the more you can win if you uncover it all and quantify it
A-
all.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and so learning how to do that and do that consistently with every engagement
Hmm.
will win you more deals. It'll make you more successful. It'll shorten your sales cycles. All
Yeah.
all the good stuff happens after that if you do that.
Absolutely. So great segue into my next trick question here. So we know that sales is dynamic. It's nonlinear nowadays, right?
Right.
Especially when you're talking mid-market enterprise sales and things like ERP. What is the most critical step in the sales process?
I knew you were going to ask that. I knew you were going to ask
Of
that.
course. Of course.
The discovery call, plain and
Yes.
simple.
Or,
That
or
that
multiple,
is,
or the discovery calls. It could be 10 of
yeah,
them.
it could be three or
Yeah.
four. That is critical
Hmm.
because this is where you hone your skills. You have to be a great listener.
Hmm.
You have to be able to diagnose. I mean, this piece right here is where everything takes root. It can either flourish or die based on the
Hmm.
discovery.
Yeah.
If you don't ask enough questions around everything, every
Hmm.
department,
Hmm.
when this happens, tell me about this. Tell me a little bit more about this. Because you can't do that. What happens?
Yeah.
And why? What's the
Yeah.
impact of that? If you're not asking questions like that on your discovery call,
Yeah.
then you're missing the boat and potentially leaving thousands of dollars on the table.
Yeah.
Not to mention the sales cycle is going to drag out, if not just fail completely.
Fail
Uh,
completely. Yeah. Yeah. For
the
sure.
discovery call is where it all takes shape. That's where it all forms. And you are the driver of it. You control it. The client is not guiding you through it. You are. You're the driver.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about discovery, I've found that a lot of teams and a lot of individuals just do it kind of willy nilly. They have their own way of doing it. What's been some of your best practice around discovery from our days with Sage and then so on since you continue to progress your career? What are some best practices around discovery specifically?
If you, in the beginning, as you start honing these skills, you kind of worked off of a document, and you kind of went through different departments. After a while, you don't even need that. The beauty now, you can record these conversations and go back and take your notes there rather
Hmm.
than stopping and starting, during
Yep.
your discovery.
Yep.
But I begin to think about it depending on the client, is if I work there. And so
Hmm.
if there's sales that are involved, let's start there. Tell me about your sales process. What happens? How do orders come in? And you just go down those steps and take notes. Well, what
Hmm.
happens if a step is missed, or and then you go through every single department, whether it's production, if it's manufacturing, if there's inventory, the warehouse, and you tackle each one of those departments and dive real deep in each one of those departments to find out what's broken
Hmm.
and why it's broken and what's the impact. What's that do to the business because of it? And if
Yes.
we can solve
Yes.
for it, then that impact piece goes away. And there's
Yes.
always going to be a number attached to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I kind of refer that as to like outcome led discovery. Like, what is the outcome your customer is trying to achieve? And
Right.
then you said something a little while ago, like, what are their processes?
Yeah.
That's an area, B, that I think a lot of people, a lot of sellers today are missing the boat, and they're missing a lot of opportunity cost,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
for that customer, because every business has process, right? Like, whether
Absolutely.
it's some of it's formalized, some of it's not so formal, but it's
Yeah.
still a process, right?
Right.
It's a
Right.
process, and it has a cost associated to it.
Right.
Everything that we do, that we have to invest time and energy and effort and resource, there's an
Yeah.
associated cost. But sometimes I found that customers don't look at their business through that lens. They kind of just go through the motions. They do
Yeah.
their work each day. They want to, you know what I mean? They want to get it done, but they
Hmm.
don't break it down into stages, almost like a project, like,
Oh
and
yeah.
look at where are the inefficiencies. Is something broken? Maybe, maybe not. But I think there's always an optimal way to do things, a way to optimize and create more
Exactly.
efficiency. Yeah.
Exactly. I had a client that I met and
Hmm.
then met some more executive leadership over the last couple of days, and we're talking
Hmm.
about automating sales orders. And,
Hmm.
so I started drilling into some questions around sales orders. And I said, well,
Hmm.
tell me about the process now. How's that work?
Hmm.
And this person began to tell me, like, we're getting roughly 8,000 orders by email. I said, is
Hmm.
that a month, a year, or what? She said, it's a year. So a significant amount of orders come in through email. I said, so when you say email, is there a smart form attached? Is there a document attached? And this person's like, no, the actual order is in the body of the email. So like the client saying, yeah, we want to order 14 of these and 7 of these and 8 of these and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so they want something that'll capture those words, those smart words in the body of the email.
Yeah.
We found a solution that'll do that. But then I started asking questions. Well, how many people are sitting around typing these in? And then we got deep into the weeds. I mean,
Yes.
it's a couple hundred hours a month
Oh my
between
God.
multiple people
Yeah.
that are
Isn't
doing
that
this.
crazy when you start doing the math? Like I said, when you start quantifying the problem,
Oh my God.
dude, you can have 5 or 10 occurrences, but it can blow into millions of dollars of wasted effort, because again, that customer is,
It's,
if they're used to doing it that way, they're not thinking about,
yeah,
is there a better way? They just want to get it done. You know what I'm
it's,
saying? And it's
it's a
our
little
job to
over,
show them.
yeah, it's a little over 20K a month that they're spending in all this manual labor
Wow.
just doing that,
Wow.
just that one
Wasted
piece.
effort. Wow.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. That is huge, man. That's huge. I think more salespeople and revenue teams, if they learn just that piece alone, something we started referring to as like quantitative value mapping,
Hmm.
or workflow mapping, like that could be game changer for
Big
so
time.
many companies across the globe, man.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah. And you separate yourself from the competition that way too, because
Right.
competition's
And this
probably not
this
doing it.
particular client, like that's just not the only area. Like I told you, I was in their city the week before last and sitting
Hmm.
across from their leadership, and the one guy said, we start talking about MRP, and it's a module that they have, but it's just not configured yet because they're still going through some implementation
Hmm.
stuff. I said,
Hmm.
so who's doing all the planning? He said, you're
Hmm.
looking at them. I said,
Wow.
really? I said, how much
Wow.
time are you spending? He said, I should be there right now. I shouldn't even be in this meeting. I should be planning. So,
Yeah.
just uncovering all that stuff. It gives you an eureka moment because you're truly being a consultant. You're
Yeah.
truly being a trusted advisor. And when you deliver on all that stuff, you're
Yeah.
actually being a game changer for the client. And
Yes.
that's what you're there
Yes.
to be in the first place.
Absolutely. And then the secondary benefit, I believe, is once you've done that on the front end as the sales executive, how
Hmm.
much easier is it to renew that business?
Oh,
Think
goodness.
about it. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a SaaS market right now.
There's,
It's like subscription based market. So how
yeah,
much easier is it to renew if you've already proven that quantifiable value,
big time.
versus if that customer doesn't really know and budgets are getting tight?
Yeah,
They're going to cut what they don't understand, right? They're going to
exactly.
look at you. They're going to look at you as kind of a nice to have versus a must have.
Must have. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
So moving forward, that's the one thing that will not get cut is that renewal for what you delivered, right?
absolutely.
And they're truly going to trust you. So, I mean, they're going to want things solved outside of what they thought they could do.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
Yeah. It
That's
opens up
where
a
the third
lot of other doors.
party
Yeah.
add-ons come in, the extensions and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yes, 1000%. So with that being said, like knowing what you know now as such a seasoned seller, what would you say is the number one skill today for a salesperson?
I'd say you have to have a few, but it's hard for me to say what's the best one.
Well, maybe top three. Like give me the top three, three to
Yeah,
five.
I would say listening,
Yep.
number one, or one of the top, being able to diagnose and then being able to quantify it all.
Hmm.
Those three. If you have those three skills,
Yeah.
and the ability to develop questions around, those things, that'll put you on the right path.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
missing out on one of those, then you're gonna fall short.
Yeah, for sure. So aside from what I taught years ago and kind of teaching you a different model, a different methodology, what have
Mhm.
been some of the other training or programs
Uh,
or reading or whatever, like some of the things that you've added to your arsenal over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
well, it's not going down to the bottom of the lake. I know you remember that. It's not that. So
This is, oh my God, that brought back
you remember
memories.
that?
So for those of you that don't know what the heck we're talking about, I don't even remember it was Grendel and something
It
else.
was, yeah, it was some mythical people or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like story time sales training or something. I got what they were trying to get across
Right.
during the training, but man, we spent a week in that type of stuff, and it's like, yeah, we probably could have gone a
Some
different
of it
way.
was okay, but then what happened with all the training I had been through in the past, nobody held you accountable at the end of the
Yeah.
day. In the
That,
future,
oh my God. Now that, see, you got to say that again for the people in the back. No
yeah.
one's holding you up. So, and that's always been one of my challenges with sales training. There's some amazing sales training
Hmm.
programs out there, but it's not what you do in the training, it's what you do after the
After,
training. Is
yep,
there an enablement framework or a sales process execution framework that holds you to the disciplines of what you just learned? And that a lot of
yeah,
that's on sales leadership too, man. You know what I
it
mean?
is.
I think we go through those workshops or those boot camps or whatever, and it's fun for that week or two, and then after that we go right back to the default behavior, the old
Yeah,
behaviors of selling with no leverage. You know what I'm
no
saying? Like
leverage,
that's
none,
that's yeah.
and you keep getting what you've been getting. You know what
Get
I'm
what you
saying?
get. Absolutely.
So now I've
Absolutely.
been through a few. There was that one, and then selling through curiosity, which was closely related to what you had taught, and it came after what you had taught too.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when I went through that, everybody was learning that new skill set, and I already
Yeah.
knew it, so I felt
Yep.
like I had an advantage because I was already doing it. And then gap selling, which is a spin off of what you were teaching.
Yep. Yep. Love Gap Selling. Love Keenan. I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent read. Yeah.
so already doing that, but it's all based around problem centric selling. Some companies in the past still operate off of BANT, which I do not like at all. It's budget, authority, need, and timeline. Like, and if you don't have one of those, you don't have anything. And that's a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not true.
Absolutely. It's not a great qualifying model. I will
Hmm.
say though, the N in BANT, the need, right? Because
The
we're
need,
talking about the needs analysis, right? The
yeah,
discovery, the
yeah.
problem centric selling. So the
Hmm.
N in BANT, I think, is very viable, but we miss on that. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying? We assume the need, you know what I
right,
mean? Or it's a
right,
very subjective thing, but it's like, are you quantifying the need with
exactly.
customer specific data?
If the problem's big enough, if there's a big enough gap between current and future state, the greater the chance is of a sale. The
Yes. Yeah.
smaller that is,
Yep.
you're very limited in making a sale. I mean,
Right. But how would you even know it if you're not measuring? Like
if you're not
if you
measuring it,
can't
yeah,
yeah, if you can't measure the current state, how can you determine the delta between now and the potential future, the pie in the sky?
exactly.
Yeah.
If you do everything right and go through all the steps, and you uncover that the space, the gap, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
is 15 grand, and
Yeah.
your solution is 75,000, and services is 120. They're not buying your solution
Not buying it.
if you're going to
Yeah.
solve for
Yeah.
15K.
The
You
the
know,
medicine is worse than the sickness at that point.
right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So yeah, for sure, for sure. Really, really interesting. So what are there any, so I know you with a newer company right now, and again, you don't have to get into specifics or anything like that, but is
Hmm.
there anything you're seeing in the market in general that's still challenging. That's like a difficult workaround when it comes to the sales process itself. It could be sales specific, it could be biz dev, it could be
Yeah.
marketing, any of those, adjacent businesses that we interact with. Because again, they're all a part of the sales process.
Right.
But people always think about the sales team as the only team that matters. I'm like, nah, all
No,
those businesses matter too.
they all matter. Not a lot of challenges where I currently sit because I'm not
Hmm.
on the new acquisition side. I'm more on
Okay.
the sales account management side. But when I think back, though, a lot is still to be desired around bandwidth and then
Hmm.
just general sales consultant knowledge. Right. What I
Okay.
mean by that is the same old habits that we talked about that we used to do prior to learning
Yeah.
how to be a true consultant.
Yeah.
And leadership in some of these companies is still letting that happen. They're okay with that. And I sit back and I think about my spreadsheet and all the red lines that would go through, and we'd sit in those meetings and we'd read that out. And here's the potential sale. Well, that's gone and that's gone. And then you look at the bottom. That's $800,000 I lost out on.
Yeah.
Make 30% of that or 10%, whatever your cut would be. But leadership is still accepting that kind of stuff
Yeah.
from the sales side. But then the other part of that too is on the services side, the bandwidth. If you do your job the right way and you do get a sale, customers want that now. They want your project, their project to be the only one that's happening,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's not realistic. There's hours per week that's dedicated. Resources are used from both sides, but as the reseller or as working for the publisher, a lot of times we don't have the resources either,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
things get drawn out, and there's sometimes can be a bad taste in the client's mouth just because of the length of which things
Yeah.
take place.
Yeah.
So those two things are kind of stand out to me of what I've seen in the past.
And it's hard to control. I mean, it's hard to
It
control
is.
that part of the business. But one thing I'll say, man, that I always admired about you was your integrity. Like you always set the right customer expectation.
Oh
Even if
yeah.
it's something they didn't want to hear, even if it wasn't ideal, I
Oh
think
yeah.
you had this drive and this commitment to, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth, right? You
Oh
you've
yeah.
never been one of those salespeople that would overpromise and underdeliver just to get the deal. Like that
Never do
that's
that.
what I think is missing. I think that is missing just in general, man, is this a level of integrity and setting realistic expectations with the customer.
That's a piece too. I've sat in on enough calls where I've heard peers completely overpromise something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that could be just in what the solution could do.
Yes.
Number
Yeah.
one, and or if you're speaking around the project, oh yeah, we'll have you up and running in 60 days when you know full well it's going to be 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Easily.
What are you
Yeah.
what are you promising over here? You know?
Yeah. The interesting thing though, I think most customers, I haven't seen too many customers, I'd say 98 to 99%, even if it's not the answer they want, they respect it and they respond favorably. If you
They
just
do.
tell them the truth, you know what I mean? Like
They do.
if we can make it make sense, if it's like, okay, I mean that's logical. I understand where things are, and these are the timelines. Most people are reasonable, man. I've never had somebody like
They
bite my
will be.
head off, like, "Oh, this is
No.
unacceptable," and so on and so forth.
If you could start a sentence out by saying, "Listen, I want to be transparent," and then
Yeah,
give them what the real is,
yeah,
they'll appreciate that.
and especially if you've done your due diligence in the discovery needs analysis stage,
Yeah.
right? And you've shown them the quantifiable impact. Sometimes that's worth the wait. It's like,
Oh yeah,
you're going to
absolutely.
give me this type of net positive return on this investment. Yeah,
Right.
I'll wait 3 months to make sure it's done right, right? Because you don't have to
Absolutely.
go back and do it again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I think that's huge. So
Hmm.
listen, man, in closing, let's put our mentor hat on right now. I know you mentor a lot of salespeople and have for a lot of years.
Yeah.
If you could share some advice for a seller in the ERP space specifically, right? This ERP specifically, because there's tons of them out there, tons of OEM providers, tons of resellers, and all that. If you
Hmm.
could share some advice to an ERP seller that's struggling to meet their quota, like they haven't had good success, they're challenged with achieving the results they want to achieve, because you've been on the other side of it, right? You've
Yeah.
transformed totally. Again, literally, pip to President's Club. What
Yep.
advice would you give an ERP seller in this environment?
I would say truly revisit, the entire sales process that you have going on right now.
Hmm.
If it is not encompassed around problem centric selling, then you're missing the boat. You're leaving plenty of dollars on the table. A
Hmm.
lot of deals that could be won will not be
Yes.
won. That's number one. And if you are doing that, I would search out, seek, and find some methodologies or some people that teach those methodologies. That contract with sales leverage if you need to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Gap selling. They teach
I
that.
did not pay him for that. I did not pay
No,
him
he
for
didn't.
that, but thank you.
That'll teach your staff how to truly sell problem centric selling. It'll make a difference in the sales.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
biggest advice that I could give.
Quantify, 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 man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy, even though it's been many years now, that you embrace that and it's paid off for you
Oh, big
tremendously.
time.
And I think others listening to this show, listening to this podcast, if they take heed to your advice, and again, you've proven the results, man. It's not
Yeah.
concept, it's not theory. It's like you've done it and you continue to do it
It
over and
works. Yeah.
over and over. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So that's what we're about, man. You know my passion for being an enablement
Hmm.
resource for folks, showing people how to get results easier. Again,
Right.
simplifying the complex sale because people
Oh, yeah.
overthink it. I tell people all the time, man,
Big time.
sales is nothing more than an exchange of value. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
You just got to find
Uh,
out what the value is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
It may take you longer in some stages, but
yeah,
that's all it is.
yeah.
That's really all
Absolutely,
it is. You could be
absolutely.
talking to a guy that just ships and sells four different products out of a warehouse, but he has a bunch of problems, you
Yeah,
know. Or you could be
absolutely.
talking to a manufacturer that manufactures 100 different types of things and has all kinds of whip and
Yeah,
shop floor control. All that stuff could be in there.
yes,
Same kind of conversation, just a different type of
yeah.
customer.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. If I could say my advice, man, it would be learn first, educate second, right? Learn your customer's business first. Learn,
Hmm.
what they have going on in their world. Understand the current state before you
Hmm.
start making recommendations. Before you start being
Absolutely,
overly prescriptive and you miss 5 or 10 different elements of that problem. That's a huge
absolutely.
mistake.
That's a
Yeah.
big part of it. Yep, you're right. Yep,
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Thank you for doing this so late in the evening, cutting
my
into your
pleasure.
dinner time and all that, man. It
Pleasure.
is truly, truly an honor having this discussion on this side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We've come through and grown through a lot, but man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much
My
for your
pleasure, man.
time.
Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
All right, Ryan.
listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in and helping us take a step toward becoming the number one revenue enablement podcast in the world. That is our goal. That's what we're after. So, and just know we're committed to simplifying and accelerating the pace of the complex sales process. Take a moment to like and subscribe so that you can receive alerts on future episodes. Also, follow us on our other platforms for transformative insights and tactics that will give you the leverage to win more deals and maximize your revenue while doing it. Take care, everybody.
All
Have a
right.
good one.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Amen.